Wayne Mason is one of the East High School deans who was shot inside the school back in March. The student who shot him needed daily pat-downs in order to enter the school. 9's reporter Brianna Fernandez joins us live now outside DPS headquarters. And Brianna, we are hearing from Dean Mason for the first time since the shooting, and he says the school system needs to change.
Yeah, we are hearing from Dean Mason for the first time, and he says that there were red flags that needed to be addressed way before March 22nd, which is the day that him and another dean were shot by a 17-year-old at East High School. Now, according to Dean Mason, a student told staff that the 17-year-old had a gun in class weeks before the shooting in March. Before someone could search him, he ran away. Dean Mason doesn't know when the 17-year-old came back to East High School after that incident, but Mason remembers seeing him at the school the day before the shooting. Now recovering, Mason's sharing his story publicly for the first time and revealing new details about what happened that day. Take a listen.
Eric came up and Eric said, "I will take him back." Eric took Austin back into room 129, our office. Eric called for the AP again. The AP didn't answer. Eric called for safety. The safety officers didn't answer. Shortly after that, Eric was yelling in the radio, "Wayne, Wayne, help me, help me."
A lot of new details that were revealed by Dean Mason. Now, he says that Dean Mason, as well as the other dean, were not responsible for these daily pat-downs, which is why now they're calling for the school district to make some changes when it comes to these daily pat-downs. Corey, Jordan?
Brianna, so Dean Mason is recovering. Is he back to work yet?
Not yet, but he says he loves what he does. He wants to go back to school, and of course, he wants to see his kids. That's the most important part.
Yeah,
well, we're glad he's doing well. Brianna, thank you. Another person is joining the race for the at-large seat on the Denver School Board, Kwame Spearman.
He is the only candidate right now challenging incumbent Aonte Anderson. Spearman dropped out of the mayoral race a few weeks before the election and then stepped away from his job as CEO from Tattered Cover to focus on politics. There are 2 at-large seats, but Anderson is the only one up for election this year. So whoever wins could have a key voice in how the district addresses safety and violence in schools, along with declining enrollment.
The conservative majority on Douglas County School Board will not settle a lawsuit over how they fired their last superintendent. The minority members of the board accused the other members of deciding to fire Corey Wise last year in private conversations, leaving out their counterparts on the board and the public. A man who lives in Dougco sued, saying it violated Colorado's open meetings law. The board considered settling the lawsuit, but one of the conditions of the settlement was they would have to admit they broke the law. So the majority voted to reject the settlement 4-3. The minority members said continuing the legal fight was a waste of money. It's already cost $250,000.
Hundreds of migrants just arrived in Denver, and right now they're staying in a parking garage. The people are from Venezuela. They say they don't have much food, and they've been sleeping on the ground there for days. The city's using the garage as a processing center to help get new migrants into shelters. In March and April, they took in 20 to 30 people a day. Now more than 200 people are arriving each day, and it's taking days to help them all.
No se duerme bien porque uno está acostumbrado a dormir en su cama, a cambio ahí está durmiendo en su cartón.
Mira, hasta ahora no nos han dado nada, solamente vino alguien, nos dio una galletita y eso es lo que hemos comido.
City leaders say they are providing food when they can, and other organizations are trying to help. Most of the migrants are already in contact with immigration officials, and they're just waiting for their papers or bus tickets to leave Denver. The city told us people can leave the garage to stay in a shelter or find food if they have connections or money. Denver Mayor Michael Hancock and Democratic Governor Jared Polis are now asking the federal government for more help. They're expecting even more people to start arriving in Denver after the end of Title 42 on Thursday, which has been limiting how many migrants can come into the U.S.
1 month after a deadly fire at an apartment complex, some of the people who live there are asking a judge to stop their landlord from making repairs. Some people had to jump from their balconies to escape the fire at the Ivy Crossings apartments off Quebec and Iliff. One person sadly died. Documents show the fire marshal with South Metro Fire told management the building was violating the fire code nearly 2 months before the fire happened. Now some of the people who live in the building say the repairs their landlord is making could actually cover up what happened there. Fire investigators say people caused the fire, but they're not sure if it was intentional.
A woman from Colorado Springs will spend the rest of her life in prison for killing her 11-year-old stepson in their home 3 years ago. The jury found Leticia Stout guilty. On January 27, 2020, Stout shot and stabbed Gannon. She then put his body in a suitcase, drove to Florida, and tossed it over a bridge. Stout's attorney argued she was legally insane when she attacked Gannon and should be found not guilty by reason of insanity. Well, the jury disagreed. Gannon's parents spoke about the pain they have felt the past 3 years.
I miss you, Gannon, and I love you to the moon and back again. I know every day you're with me and your sisters, but that will never be taken away, the ache that I have for you.
After the jury's verdict, the judge sentenced Stout to the mandatory life in prison without the possibility of parole. Stout chose not to speak before she was sentenced.
This morning, memorials are growing for the people who were killed in that mass shooting at a mall in Texas. And now we are learning more about the people who sadly died that day. 20-year-old Christian LaCour was killed. He was working as a security guard at the time of the shooting. He was known as a dedicated student. Ashwara Thadikonda was an engineer who lived in a nearby city. Her entire family lives in India. She was with a friend at the outlet mall when that shooting happened. Her friend was injured in the shooting and is currently in the hospital. The youngest killed was 3-year-old James Cho. He was with his parents, Q and Cindy. Both of them were also killed. They were at the mall to exchange clothes for their 6-year-old son, William, who is the only member of the family to survive this shooting. He is now recovering in the hospital. 2 elementary school students, Daniela and Sofia Mendoza, also died. They were in 2nd and 4th grade. Texas DPS identified 32-year-old Elio Cumana Rivas as a victim as well. We are also learning more about the shooter.
A U.S. Army spokeswoman says that he had entered the Army but was kicked out after 3 months without finishing initial entry training. That spokeswoman says that he was terminated either because of a physical or mental condition. And according to NBC News, a social media page that appears to belong to the shooter shows extremist beliefs and posts attacking women, Jewish people, and minorities. Police say those posts are part of their investigation but have not said anything about a possible motive.
And one thing you want to know about our weather today are the stats. Going for a high of 78 degrees. That's a full 10 degrees above normal for this time of year. Now the record high, 90 from 2018, and the record low, 27 from 1946.